Hey everybody, happy Friday or Saturday or Sunday or Monday. I don't know when you're listening to this. We've been publishing a lot of content here at Lions of Liberty, so maybe you're behind. Hopefully you're not. But if you are, we still love you. Just wanted to talk to you for a real quick minute here and let you guys know about something cool we're doing with our friend Gret Glyer over at DonorC. Gret has an awesome platform for helping people, especially in very poor countries. And we're partnering with Gret. We are donating 10% of our Lions of Liberty Pride contributions to his coronavirus efforts. And he is targeting helping people in the poorest parts of the world to get, even simple things like hand sanitizer and cleaning supplies and being able to help them out through this very tough time. Coronavirus is tough enough on us in the first world here, as they say, just navigating through it and learning the new normal. In poorer countries, it is much, much worse. And if we can just do a little bit to help, it'll go a long way. And of course, with DonorC, you get to see the impact that your donations have. You can follow it along and get updated videos. So check out more on this initiative at donorc.com/coronavirus. And you can join the Lions of Liberty Pride by going to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty and check out everything we offer there with the bonus content and perks and merchandise and all that good stuff. Let's get to the show.
Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, welcome back to another edition of Felony Friday, a weekly show right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. What is Felony Friday? Felony Friday is a show where every single week we're going to do a deep dive and we're going to examine and expose injustice in the broken criminal justice system. Now, if this is your first time listening to Felony Friday, your first time listening to any of the shows we have here on Lions of Liberty, sit back, relax, enjoy the show, put your feet up. If you're driving, please don't put your feet up. But if you've been back several times, if this is a regular habit of listening, why haven't you subscribed? Or maybe you have subscribed. Thank you if you subscribed. But if you haven't, please do so. Whatever podcasting app you're listening on, please just scroll up to the top there, punch that subscribe button, and you'll get every single episode of the Lions of Liberty podcast and of Felony Friday delivered to your little listening device. And also, if you really enjoy what you're hearing here, please think about giving us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcast, especially if you listen there, because it helps with the algorithms and all that crazy stuff. Without further ado, let's get rolling with today's show. All right, welcome to another edition of Felony Friday here today. I have a familiar guest, the Godfather of the Lions of Liberty, Mr. Howie Snowdon is back with me. Welcome, Howie.
Hey, John. Happy to be here, especially to talk about something as important as our topic for today.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. Topic for today, and I mean, this is something that you've been in my ear to, and rightfully so, to talk about this on Felony Friday. I did make an effort to try to get Duncan Lemp's girlfriend on the show to talk about this, but and that's what we'll be talking about today. If you happen to not read the title before you clicked on the podcast, we're talking about the Duncan Lemp police shooting, and I reached out to his girlfriend on Twitter, and obviously with everything that's happening and police withholding information, and there being such a dramatic difference between the police side of the story and the eyewitness side of the story, her lawyers did not want her to come on the show.
I mean, that's totally understandable. And whatever's best for this family, I think, is best. So I'm here since she can't be. And speaking of the family, I've got a link that I sent you to put in the show notes that is a GoFundMe for their legal defense fund and for also like memorial stuff. And there was also his girlfriend had posted a like a baby registry online. I saw that everything that was on it, people already bought, which is excellent. But I don't know if she'll add anything else. It might be worth just putting it out there just in case.
And honestly, that's a good point. I'll post both. And I know, if everything on the baby registry is bought, that's great. But I would say just keep going to the GoFundMe, and I'll post that on the show notes page. It'll be lionsofliberty.com/FF127. You'll be able to find that, as long as all the links to all the articles and podcasts we're going to cite here. There's a lot. There really isn't a lot. There's a lot of information. There's a lot to talk about, but at the same time, the police are withholding body cam footage. So there's a lot out there that hopefully eventually we'll find out. I guess the neighboring county, whenever this happens in Maryland, when there's a shooting of this nature, the neighboring county's police department researches it or investigates.
That's right. It happened in Montgomery County, Maryland, and Howard County, I believe, will investigate it, which is better, but I just don't think it's good enough. I think an independent investigation needs to happen. But just for anyone who doesn't know the story, just sticking with the basic facts, what happened was there was a no-knock SWAT raid at 4:30 a.m., and Duncan Lemp was in bed with his pregnant girlfriend. He was shot and killed. She was injured. The way that whole thing played out, the witnesses, the girlfriend and the family, have a completely different story than the police. I guess we'll go into the different sides of that. Yeah.
Well, just to add a little bit more. So these are the undisputable facts of the case. So the no-knock raid happened on March 12th, 4:30 a.m., around 4:30 a.m. There was a warrant. The warrant was obtained for that raid on March 11th, 2:38, I believe. That's what I saw.
And this warrant was based off of an anonymous tip from like a few months earlier that Duncan was in possession of a firearm. The police claim that he's a prohibited person from owning a firearm because of some juvenile incident. The family and his lawyer say that's not true, and the only thing anyone's been able to turn up on him is a speeding ticket. And he's a 21-year-old tech guy. As far as Aaron can find like no history of violence, I know, or any crime that I know about.
Yeah, it's 21 years old, and he's living with his parents and his pregnant girlfriend, as well as his, I think, 19-year-old brother. So just hearing these facts, I think anybody out there, whether you're pro-police, whether you're skeptical of police and not trusting or whatever, anywhere on the spectrum, I think just knowing these facts, knowing that you have a 21-year-old man who, based on an anonymous tip, from who knows where it came from, the police were able to get a warrant for a no-knock raid based on an anonymous tip that he had firearms. Who knows how credible that was, and are able to enter his home or potentially shoot him from outside, which we'll get into, and doing so when he's living with his pregnant girlfriend. So just knowing that part of the story, that's enough to make this is an outrage. And there's more to it, but just this alone is outrageous.
Yeah, and even without getting more into the details of the incident, like since this happened, the police threatened his parents with like a $5,000 fine and a year in jail if they were to go and protest the murder of their son. I guess they must have been following the family's social media stuff, and they saw that there was a protest organized. And the police said, well, because of the governor's lockdown order, if you show up to this, you can go to jail for a year, get $5,000 fine. Even though the protest, I saw something posted about it before it happened on Twitter saying, people staying groups of 10, social distance, they were going to follow all the rules that had been set forth. And pretty sure your First Amendment isn't suspended because of a virus.
That's insane. So was that only for the family members or anyone that showed up at the protest?
Well, the police just contacted the parents and told them that, like, hey, if you go to this. But it did happen. I saw pictures from it. I don't believe anyone was arrested at it. And also this warrant that we were mentioning, it was sealed for 30 days, which is up, but now they're using the coronavirus as an excuse to not release what's in it.
Yeah, so the police have, like we said, they're not releasing the body cam footage. You can't see the warrant. They've completely clammed up. And I mean, if there's an actual real investigation that comes out of this, maybe you can understand it to a certain point. If you don't want, there could be police officers in Montgomery County trying to hide information right now. And, if you're looking at this objectively and giving the Howard County, the county investigating, the benefit of the doubt, which I really would not do. But if you're assuming they're going to do a thorough investigation, maybe you can make a justification for that you don't want, people digging around and whatnot. But imagine if the tables were reversed here and this had happened to a police officer getting shot, laying in his bed with his pregnant girlfriend. The outrage would be through the roof. It would be all you'd hear about other than coronavirus on the news. And this story here, and I thank Howie thank you for pestering me to talk about this. And I guess I was kind of just waiting for more information to come out, but I've realized who knows how long that's going to be, the way this is playing out. So I just wanted to shine a light on it now. And we can dig more into the specifics of the case and the different sides of the story now.
Yeah. So what the family and the witnesses say happened was that they were asleep in bed and the cops from outside the house shot through the window. They came in. He was already shot and wounded. His girlfriend was injured. Apparently he had set up a booby trap at his bedroom door, which I know that sounds weird at first, but it was a shotgun that would fire blanks. He was concerned about a home invasion or someone coming in the middle of the night and killing him, which apparently was a legitimate fear to have.
Yeah, I think Michael Malice pointed out on his interview with Glenn Beck, which I'll link to on the show notes page, that, there's a lot of media sources pointing to that being, well, this is a crazy guy that thought someone was going to break in his house and shoot him, which is exactly what happened. So
yeah, and his girlfriend
not crazy.
Alerted the police to this, told them about it. They disarmed it. It was just going to fire blanks and make a sound anyways. But the police say they announced themselves. Everyone in the family says that's not true. They say they gave him commands and he didn't follow them. Well, if he's already been shot, it might be kind of hard to put your arms up and, do whatever. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's a little bit of he said, she said, but the fact that the police won't release the body cam footage, I'm convinced their side of the story is not true. It's not going to show what they're saying happens. And their write-up of the incident changed 3 times. They kept changing exactly what happened. And it's just absurd. There's no reason in my mind to possibly believe them. If they're innocent and they acted right, they need to release the body cam footage and see. But
yeah, I think I have the third revision in front of me here, and I'll just read a part of it. So the search warrant on March 12, 2020 was served in the early morning hours, consistent with Montgomery County Department of Police practice. The officers entering the residence announced themselves as police, and they were serving a search warrant. Officers gave commands for individuals inside the residence to show their hands and to get on the ground. Upon making contact with Lemp, the officers identified themselves as police officers and gave multiple orders to show his hands and comply with officers' commands to get on the ground. Lemp refused to comply with the officers' commands and proceeded towards the interior bedroom door where other officers were located. Upon entrance by officers in Lemp's bedroom, Lemp was found to be in possession of a rifle and was located directly in front of the interior bedroom entrance door. During the service of the search warrant, a device, this is what you're talking about, the device affixed to the inside of the frame of the exterior door leading to Lemp's bedroom. The fire marshals responded in order to render the device safe. The device was designed as a booby trap, intended to, and they don't tell you it's blanks here, intended to detonate a shotgun shell at the direction of anyone entering through the exterior door of Lemp's bedroom. After officers entered the bedroom, the other occupant of the room, his girlfriend, warned officers to be careful of the device rigged to the exterior door. Statements from other occupants of the residence indicate everyone in the house was aware of this device. So, I mean, just hearing the official police story. So, you're supposed to believe that police, announced themselves and came into the house, and all of this happens. He's surrounded by armed people, and he goes and grabs his rifle. It doesn't make any sense. I don't.
It's laughable.
Yeah.
And especially the fact that this took them 3 times to come up with this version of the story, and they won't release the footage. I mean, I don't think there's any way like that footage is going to be lost or destroyed, or, the camera forgot to turn it on. There's going to be some nonsense. This stuff is infuriating, and it keeps happens. I know the first time I heard about it, I assumed it probably had to do with Maryland's red flag laws, which have gotten people killed already. And I mean, that's just right by me in Virginia. We just passed a red flag law here and a bunch of other more severe firearms laws. Mm-hmm. And I think some of this is part of the reason why Duncan was targeted. He was like a vocal Second Amendment supporter. I know he was doing work on a secure website for like a Second Amendment group. He posted some memes about like the Boogaloo or like things like that. And it's a joke. And I think this is what got him killed. Like, posting jokes on the internet now can get you killed. There's no free speech. There's no right to defend yourself. No Second Amendment right.
I mean, that's a great point. That's another thing that the media has pointed to, that he was posting about, and they don't go into detail at all about the Boogaloo. And it's a majorly trending meme, obviously, in the libertarian and conservative community, where everyone's posting about the Boogaloo. I'm sure I've probably done it in the past. And to use this as a justification, saying, well, this is a guy that he's a member of the 3%ers, which is, I guess, a armed militia group, right? And
I mean, didn't we just have who's the football player that's got a 3% tattoo, and everybody's freaking out?
I think he was drafted from a college in West Virginia, I believe. Drafted by the Patriots, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah,
are they going to bust down his door now and take him out? It's absurd. There's no reason to think
militias, right? I mean, isn't it under the Second Amendment? You can have militias.
We're supposed to have them. I know, at least in Virginia, it's in our state constitution that we're supposed to have it.
The thing that's sickening to me is, the whole thing's sickening, but that people are using this, that he's posting Boogaloo memes as a way to justify this is okay, which is just so freaking absurd. The fact that, so if you just assume that, okay, which is not true, assume that he was a danger to the community, which the warrant was also, what does it say? The warrant was not, the warrant had no issue with imminent threat. And there was no law enforcement officials or public in danger based on the warrant. And they still had the ability to do a no-knock raid. So even knowing all of that, if you're comfortable with this happening in your community, there's something wrong with you. If you're comfortable with someone going to the police anonymously saying that an individual has weapons and they're not supposed to, and then the police can come back hours later, what is it, like 12 hours, less than 12 hours, or 14 hours later, do a no-knock raid into a home where a 21-year-old man is living with his pregnant girlfriend with a 19-year-old brother and parents in a very affluent neighborhood. Not that matters. I think obviously it shouldn't happen anywhere, but in a very affluent neighborhood, affluent meaning generally safer, not a lot of, affluent meaning wealthy, but generally in areas of affluence, there's, less violence. And for this to be generally accepted by some people is completely absurd.
And dude, this happens all the time. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I saw some statistics recently. I think it was like in a year, there's like 60,000 no-knock raids like this in America. So that's like over 1,000 a week.
That's 60,000 no-knock raids. That's as many.
Like he was no threat, or just like when old man Roger Stone living with his deaf wife, they roll up at his house at the crack of dawn. It's ridiculous.
Well, they called CNN first, though. They want to make sure CNN was there.
That too. But I mean, to think that if they just went, knocked on the door, said, hey, we have this warrant, we want to come around, look around. I find it hard to believe that a shootout or any kind of situation like this is going to occur from it. It reminds me of just because the documentary's on Netflix right now is in my mind. But in Waco, like they could have picked up David Koresh anytime. He went to town all the time, but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
They waited for this big standoff thing that went terrible. All these people got killed, and media is there. It's the same. It's just getting worse. It's stuff that's been happening, and it's just getting worse. It's becoming more and more of a police state, and I'm sure all these new things with the coronavirus are going to continue to the increasing nature of a police state. But one thing that I saw, like this is getting around. People are talking about it. People aren't letting it go. And there was I forget the state it was in recently, but there was a business that wasn't allowed to be open, and they opened up, and there were armed men outside making sure that this business could be open and operate. And the police asked the guys what their names were. They both said Duncan Lemp.
Yeah, well, that's I mean,
there's creating a martyr.
You hate to say that something positive. Well, something positive is coming from this. So the story is getting out there, and I 100% agree with you with these governor, these tyrants who are using power they don't have just to shut down businesses. I mean, this country is a powder keg right now, and I'm not saying that in a way like I'm not condoning violence or anything like that, but just looking at the situation as it is. I mean, the government has shut down communities. State governments, local governments have shut down businesses, saying people can't work, can't be employed, can't make money. You have, 25 million people? Is that what it is now? Out of work, 30 million, something like that, who cannot get income. Now they're tied to, they have to get government paychecks or, they're waiting on their stimulus paychecks. People now who, they say that a lot of the United States was living paycheck to paycheck based on their jobs. Now they're living paycheck to paycheck based on the government, which is 100 times worse. And if that gets cut off, if they don't have income, if they can't survive, what happens then? And you have police using tactics like this that a large part of the United States generally is okay with no-knock raids. It's crazy.
And I mean, like in Virginia recently with all these new gun laws, there was a lot of protest and a lot of fight. And so far, the assault weapon magazine capacity ban hasn't gone through. But nobody seemed to have that big of a problem with the red flag laws. That went through. And that's going to get people killed. This kind of incident is going to happen anywhere where there's red flag laws. Anywhere where somebody can honestly be like, oh, hey, I think this person's dangerous and they have a gun. Your door's going to get kicked down. Your dogs get shot. You get shot maybe. And this is just a nightmare. The police should not have this kind of power. They shouldn't be behaving like this, and they need to be held accountable.
Let's take a real quick break here. I want to tell you guys about an awesome libertarian podcast. I know you guys think that Lions of Liberty is the only libertarian podcast out there, and we are great. I mean, it's awesome what we do here at Lions of Liberty, but there's other good ones too. In fact, there's a great one called Good Morning Liberty. It's hosted by our friends Nate and Charlie, and myself and Brian. We were on the show a couple weeks ago, and Mark was on after that separately. Highly recommend going back and checking out those episodes. But also with Good Morning Liberty, what they do, what the host Nate and Charlie are trying to do is they've taken on the onus of trying to change people's minds of how people view libertarians. And they're doing this by leading with a message of compassion first. They're looking at the way in which policies impact people and using the principles of liberty to provide compassionate solutions. I know, it's amazing, right? So much more effective than just typing loudly and screaming to yourself and commenting on Facebook statuses. But they're actually giving you tangible ways to talk to other human beings about how liberty is compassion. Amazing, right? So Nate and Charlie are two great guys, like I said. I think I said that at the beginning. They have a background in healthcare. They actually own a healthcare IT company. So at times like this and times of crisis that we have in this country right now, a great podcast to tap into to get their perspective. You can check it out 5 days per week. So if you need that daily hit of liberty, please check out Nate and Charlie over at Good Morning Liberty. Of course, you can find it on all the regular pod-catching apps, or you can just go to lol.gmlpodcast.com. Good Morning Liberty. Check it out. Yeah, and I don't know if I think it might have been Michael Malice who mentioned this, or maybe it was Jim Bovard on Pete's show. on Free Man Beyond the Wall with Pete Raymond, or Pete Quinones. Sorry, I always get that wrong. Talking about, police officers should really be against this. Because police officers, you would think that they'd want to not get shot themselves. So why would they be okay with putting themselves in this amount of danger? If you are to believe that he was really a dangerous individual, member of these violent militia groups who, has rifles and firearms, why the hell would you storm that guy's house who's living with a pregnant girlfriend, there's a little baby growing inside her? Why would you storm his house in the middle of the night, opening yourself up for your officers to get shot or for, the other people living in the house to get shot?
I would speculate that they probably didn't think he was a real threat, and this was all unnecessary, and they knew it.
So, are there conspiracies out there? Maybe not conspiracies, but you mentioned something about a website he was building that.
Some people are trying to say he was involved with the militias, things. That's the extent of it, and there's nothing wrong with militias to begin with.
I'm not saying that, being involved in militia, building the website's anything to be that would warrant this, but
the only conspiracy is that the cops say they didn't just murder him, and it seems pretty clear to me that they did. Mm-hmm. But one thing that bugs me that I was thinking about, say with the police, the reason for the raid was true. Say he committed something when he was a minor, and that prohibits him from owning a firearm. That's crazy. If you're free, if you're not in jail, if you're not a violent criminal that's locked up, you should be allowed to defend yourself. I can't believe that. Even felons getting out of jail can't own firearms. That's absurd. If you're safe enough to not be locked up, you should be allowed to defend yourself. And it's crazy to me that your natural right to protect yourself gets you killed. Because
if you remember back in episode 204 of this show, I had on Chad Perry, who not similar situation, but he was stripped of his gun rights as a juvenile, didn't know about it, and he bought a firearm and filled out the form. When I guess they do ask you. And this was in Pennsylvania, if you were convicted of a crime, if you were convicted of a felony. As a juvenile, or maybe it's just of a felony, but he filled it out to the best of his knowledge because he thought that his felony had been adjudicated, his felony charge.
Expunged?
Expunged. But I don't remember the specifics of it, but it wasn't. And when he filled out that form to get his gun, that triggered a warrant being issued for his arrest. And they arrested him. He was going, I think, on his honeymoon. He just got married. And they arrested him going through the airport, through TSA. They just, come out and stormed around, which way better than a no-knock raid. Not to say that he should have been stripped of his gun rights, but probably safer to do it in public, in a well-lit area than to break in someone's home in the middle of the night.
And I don't know what the law is in Maryland, but if you committed a felony, you can't own a gun. There are so many ridiculous things that are felonies that any reasonable person would think it's absurd to even consider the possibility that this person should be denied their rights. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you know better than anyone, the kind of nonsense that can be considered a felony.
Yeah, well, there's that book, Three Felonies a Day by Harvey Silverglate, which is basically says the average person commits 3 felonies a day without knowing it. And yeah, if you look through some of these laws out there, people probably don't know if you've ever jumped on someone else's Wi-Fi network. That's a felony. That's
yeah. I remember when I was a congressional page, on the House floor, the seats get higher as you go up. The ones in the back are higher than the ones in the front. And at the very back, there's a couple steps that go down to the floor level. There was nothing going on. I was just sitting on the step there. Somebody comes up to oh, hey, you got to get up. Sitting on the House floor is a felony. It's what? Sitting on the step here is a felony?
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know if that has to do with protesting in the House chamber or something, but I was just sitting. I don't know.
Can't sit there. It's a felony. I wonder if anyone's ever been arrested for that. Probably
Yeah,
not.
I mean, I wish we had more information about this case. I hope that the family's successful in getting at least the contents of what was in this warrant released, which is supposed to have been done already. I don't know how long Maryland's going to be locked down for coronavirus and how long they're not going to be able to do it, which just seems ridiculous. I mean, obviously the police are still working. Like, why can't they just release it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably because they're afraid of the blowback. You would think if the police who participated in this raid, you would think if they were innocent and their story was believable, that they would want it all released to exonerate them. I mean, why would they not?
And how did they get protected like this? If you were accused of killing someone, your name wouldn't be protected at all.
Yeah, they get administrative leave with pay, and they just get to hang out at home.
And one thing that bugged me, like, I guess right after a police shooting or something, like the police don't have to respond about it for like 10 days or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
There's like a cool down period or something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. It's like period to get your story straight or some nonsense. Like, what is that? If I'm accused of something, be like, all right, I'll get back to you in 10 days, officer. Let me cool down.
Give me 2 weeks here to figure out my alibi.
It's like the police department doesn't have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent or anything. They're public servants. This should be public knowledge what went on that day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last thing that Duncan Lemp tweeted was the Constitution is dead, and looks like he was right, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you look at it, it's a public safety issue, because if the police, if I lived in Montgomery County, Maryland, I'd want to know everything about this, because I wouldn't want the police to be able to do a no-knock raid in my house. That somebody doesn't like you, just make some shit up and say that you're a danger, and your house gets raided and you get killed, or someone in your family gets killed, your dog gets shot. Who knows what happens? It's a public safety issue. And when you have the people, the police officers who are supposed to be there to protect you, to be a participant in your public safety, defending you, when they are on the other side making your community less safe, I would hope, and I haven't really read anything, and that doesn't mean it's not happening. I haven't read anything about people specifically in Montgomery County, or was that protest people specifically in Montgomery County who were...
the protest was there in the county, I know.
Okay. So but people probably came in from outside too, but yeah, I'm sure there are people from the county who were...
Right. I mean, things like this are causing the police to lose support, and even I'm seeing a lot of hardline police supporters like kind of rethinking it with this whole lockdown and all these draconian measures being taken all over now. Like, there's a lot of people that, this is not what the police are supposed to be doing. Like, did you see the lady who they were sending to jail for a week because she had her beauty salon open?
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think I will be able to get her on Felony Friday. So that'd be awesome.
Good. I'm so glad she wouldn't kiss the ring of big government to get out of it. She's like, no, listen, I'm not being selfish. I'm not sorry. I'm not going to shut down my salon. This isn't right. My kids need to feed. The people that need to eat. The people that work for me need to be able to feed their families. And I don't think any of this stuff is constitutional. I hope there's thousands of lawsuits, and I hope people win them, because it is not right what's going on. Duncan Lemp's case is just one example of it, but we're seeing it on a broad scale all across the country. The militarization of the police, the shredding of the Constitution, the overstepping of the bounds by the government in every which way and everything they can possibly do. It's insane.
I agree, and I hope we do see lawsuits, and I think we will, and I think we'll see citizens winning lawsuits against their state governments. But the thing is, I hope that the damages are just okay, you pay no income tax for 10 years, rather than taking money from the state, which is taxpayer money, and doling that out, because that's just...
Yeah.
I don't know, that's just...
The way all that works is crazy. I just more want it to make them stop.
Mm-hmm.
But Judge Napolitano is on Fox News saying he thinks people will win these cases because this stuff is not constitutional. I know there's a lot of judges that aren't on board with the Constitution, but there are a lot that still are kind of too. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm in Pennsylvania, and people are getting very restless. Our governor, Tom Wolf, he recently, what was it, last week? We were expecting, I live outside of Pittsburgh, so Allegheny County, we were expecting our county to be moved from red to yellow. Yellow is a phase, meaning that certain businesses can open under certain criteria, whatever. And for some reason, even though our county meets all the criteria that he pointed out that you would move to that next phase of yellow, he did not open up Allegheny County. He opened up like a bunch of the counties in central PA and northwestern PA, like up by Erie, but left really without explanation other than saying just more people live there, so we can't open it. It's crazy. And I'm somebody at the beginning of the coronavirus scare who was, I did not defend any of the mandatory lockdowns, but I thought it was a good idea to stay at home if you can. I think people should voluntarily stay home. And I think that would have happened anyway and was happening anyway. But the government stepping in and closing businesses down, cutting off income, cutting off a way to make a living is just completely absurd.
No, just tell the people the truth. Let them take common sense measures on their own. This is a free country. People are going to die no matter what. I think that the virus is something to take seriously. I think it's been greatly overblown. And it certainly does not call for what we've seen. But I don't know if I've called for what has happened, no matter how deadly a virus was. This is supposed to be a free country.
Well, okay. Well, I don't want to get. I want to talk about this. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to hit on Duncan Lemp before we move on, because I do want to. I have some questions to talk about. Potentially, some things that Trump did, and get your opinion on them for handling this virus.
Sure. Yeah. No, I don't know that there's much more to say. I know we were kind of waiting for more information to come out, but we just weren't getting it. And so at least get the basics of what happened out to our listeners. So
yeah, I guess the one thing, I don't know if we talked about this or not, but so in that police report, their third revision, they said that the eyewitness, which would be his girlfriend, said that he was out of bed when the police came in and shot him. The lawyer is saying that he was killed and shot in bed. So there's contradictory statements there. And the lawyer, Renee Sandler, has said that forensic evidence and body cam footage will prove the eyewitness's story to be true and not the police story. So we'll see. Stuff like this, all we can really do is wait, which freaking sucks and should not be the standard, but that's where we are right now.
No, but where was it? Where I think it was New York, where they said, because coronavirus, we're not going to do speedy trials anymore. We just can't do it. You might be innocent, but you're going to have to sit in Rikers and wait.
Yeah, and where you'll probably it's probably either in a nursing home or in a prison is probably it is your highest percentage odds to get coronavirus, without a doubt, those two places. So, God, what a country. So to transition and talk a little bit about the coronavirus lockdown, I was curious to get your opinion. So, when this stuff happened and Trump banned travel to China, banned travel to Europe. I don't know if you think that was a good move, if that's something you think the president should be able to do, or what's your opinion around that?
I don't doubt that a travel ban might cut the number of cases and thereby the number of deaths, but I don't support the government being able to do that. I just want them to let us know, not lie to us. This is what we're facing. This is what's going on, and let people take precautions. Say, for example, right now, if I go to the grocery store, they've put in different measures. Like they only let certain number of people in the store at a time. Everyone who works there is wearing masks and gloves. They've got like a plexiglass thing kind of between you and the cashier. They've got on the floor marked like where to stand so people aren't getting too close. If you want to wear a mask, go in to try to protect yourself, or if you're sick, to spread something from other people. Like there's things that you can do to take care of your responsibility for your health on your own. And I think letting businesses and people decide their level of comfort based off of hopefully true information that we're receiving, I think that that's the way to go with this.
Yeah, my thoughts on it is that the airlines would have done it probably on their own if they weren't so entwined with the government in the first place. Like for example, right now with the airlines, the government is paying the airlines not to lay anyone off as long as they maintain some, agreed upon flight schedule through the end of September. So essentially, the airlines no longer, I mean, you could argue before this they really weren't independent at all, but we've basically nationalized airlines, and after this, probably fully nationalized airlines. So,
we saw like the NBA and different organizations already taking measures on their own. Mm-hmm. People don't want to be liable. They don't want to be like, oh, we went here and got sick, and it's all their fault. They should have known better. Like, I think if people were treated more like adults, they'd act more like adults. It's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. But I think this global economic shutdown is going to do way more damage than the virus. I don't know if I have these numbers right or not, but I think it was the UN was projecting like there might be like 130 million that die from starvation due to the economic shutdown. Like that's way worse. Maybe I have the numbers wrong, but it was a lot. It was way more than are going to die. I
would believe it. I mean, if you think about
a lot of those deaths won't be in the U.S., but I mean, I care about everybody.
Yeah. I mean, just think about the crisis and trouble we're having in our supply chains here, and, move that into a third world country, a country that doesn't have advanced supply chains, that has, maybe even more local corruption. Not that we don't have a lot of local corruption, but, probably third world countries have a lot more. And it's going to get so ugly, and it's sad. It's sad to see how this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think if everything opened up right now, if they could even stop a lot of the damage that's coming. Like it's baked into the cake now. It seems to me.
Yeah, I don't know how this is going to play out over the next 2 or 3 months. I mean, I'm hopeful that whenever it warms up, temperatures go warmer, humidity goes up. I'm hopeful that it just kind of tampons down.
Yeah, even just that, or getting outside and getting sun. There was just a new study just came out. It was just about everyone who had severe reactions to coronavirus had vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah, I was reading another article about that. That's going to be kind of skewed, obviously, because most, 1/5 or a quarter of all cases, maybe it's a fifth of all cases, a quarter of all deaths are from nursing homes. So obviously all those people are going to be low in vitamin D because they don't leave their nursing home. They should be taking a supplement like I do. they should be.
I mean, it was a couple of years ago. I got, my yearly blood test and all that. And my doctor was like, oh, your vitamin D is deficient. And she put me on like 10,000 IUs for a week and then less than that. Now I just take 5,000 every day.
Which is good. I mean, that's what doctors should be doing. They should be looking for stuff
try to
like
get as much sun as I can. But I mean, there's things like that you can do to help your immunity to not have a severe case, And
you really don't need a lot of sun to get as much vitamin D as you need. You just need to get outside.
I think it's like 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you have to have your skin bare to be able to get the sunlight and turn it. So if you're all bundled up and you go out, it's not going to help much. But
if you're just showing your hands and your face, it's not enough.
You said you were out running this morning. That's great for you, getting out in the sun a little bit, keeping healthy. Because all the other people with complications are either obese or have diabetes. Not just in general for your health, trying to stay in shape and do those kind of things are going to help you.
Absolutely. And I mean, another thing with, finally, they're coming out and saying that basically when you're outside, obviously the vitamin D is helping, but the virus really can't survive, especially if it's over like 70, 75 degrees. So like my thoughts around with restaurants, how many of these restaurants, why can't they just set up tables outside? Maybe on the weekends, some streets can be closed down, set up tables in the street. I mean, how great would that be for local communities to have their restaurants? You could have like every weekend, you could have almost like a block party. Not a block party in the sense that people are getting real close to each other, but turn your town into more of a let your businesses operate, open it up, and let people come together and boost the community.
People also might want to take a look at the supply chain and our like just in time delivery and everything coming from overseas. might be cheaper immediately, but it might be more expensive too in the long run if things like this happen more than once.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you think about this, but it's only a matter of time until we start to we probably have to come out of this more. But I mean, you're already hearing things about the U.S. is moving to, since we get like, I don't know the percentage, but the majority of our antibiotics from China. So we're trying to move that out of China. I think a decoupling of, all manufacturing is already starting to happen with China. It's just too dangerous to have so much tied to one country.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I want this all to be done voluntarily by businesses themselves. I just think there's a lesson for folks to learn here about the way things are set up right now that maybe we'll learn from. Agreed,
Howie. Agreed.
So there's one thing I didn't want to end the show without talking about this. It's kind of related to all of this. So in Michigan, there were protesters protesting the governor's orders at the Capitol, and some of them were carrying firearms. Mm-hmm. Of course, this is met with outrage, like, oh, how dare they? This is intimidation. This is terrible. And Jake Tapper asked Justin Amash about it. And he said that, he thought the governor had overstepped her bounds, but that it was a terrible idea for people to be protesting with firearms. They might intimidate the legislatures, and that he was against that. Just wanted to see what your take on this whole thing was.
Yeah, well, first, let me, I think Brian announced on Wednesday, but on Monday, Justin Amash will be on with Mark on Monday's show. So maybe Mark will ask him about that. And a good way to get Mark to ask him about that, if you're not in the Pride now, go join the Pride. And you can get in our private Facebook group and just post in there saying, Mark, ask Justin about this. So do that. You can do that by going to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. And I mean, so I saw that he had a clarifying tweet. I don't know if it was the next day or when it happened, saying that basically what he was saying, it's fine to protest, to have armed protests, but when they're like directly, in, I don't know if I forget how he phrased it, in a close proximity to legislators, it could have a threatening effect. So, I mean,
and I understand what you're saying, but I do want to point out that, I've seen protests on TV where the protesters are getting pepper sprayed and beat up and arrested. And we just had in Virginia a few months ago this very large armed protest protesting these new gun laws. And the protesters were treated very well. There was no violence. There were no problems. And you're going to have a better time probably if the protesters are armed than if they're not.
And I'm not defending Amash's statement at all. I mean, I 100% agree with you. Armed protests are almost always, the safest protests, because naturally, I mean, you're just there's not as much.
Because nobody wants trouble.
Nobody wants to get shot. An armed society is a polite society. But
exactly, because Justin is such a high-profile libertarian, I wanted people to hear another perspective than that. The only reason I brought it up.
Yeah. And I mean, he'll have plenty of chances to respond to it. So I'm really not going to say much more about it because he can respond to it himself, and you guys can listen on Monday. So let's go with that. Anything else, good. Howie?
Nope, I'm good. Gotta get back to my work from home routine.
Yeah, me too. All right. So from Howie Snowdon and from John Odermatt and all the Lions of Liberty, keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning. Thank you for listening to today's show. Another great episode of Felony Friday. As you know, Felony Friday is one of 3 shows we have here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Of course, we kick off every single week with our Monday show hosted by Mark Claire. It's our longest running program, our flagship program, where Mark interviews leaders in the Liberty movement. Every Wednesday, we have Electric Liberty Land hosted by Brian McWilliams. It's your weekly shot of culture, comedy, liberty, swearing, and just good fun. Check that out. You can get all 3 shows by subscribing for the great price of $0 per month. You get everything that we have here. So please check everything out. And if you like it all, please consider supporting what we're doing here at Lions of Liberty. A great way to do that is by joining the Lions of Liberty Pride. You can do that by going to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. Another great way of doing that is by following, liking, sharing our stuff on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Lions of Liberty. On Instagram and Twitter, we are at Lions of Liberty. And the discussion forum where all the greatest and brightest minds go to talk about politics, liberty, everything that's happening in the world today, current events, the Lions of Liberty Forum on Facebook, which you can find by typing Lions of Liberty Forum in the search bar at the top of Facebook, clicking search, comes up, say you want to join it, answer a question, bam, you're in, and the rest is just going to be a great journey for you. So check that out. That's all I have for today. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.